বাংলাদেশ সফর নিয়ে রাজধানীর হোটেল ইন্টারকন্টিনেন্টালে সাংবাদিকদের ব্রিফ করছেন জাতিসংঘের মানবাধিকার বিষয়ক হাই কমিশনার মিশেল ব্যাশেলে। সরাসরি যাচ্ছি সেখানে।
Within the whole society are harnessed, and policies and responses are crafted with the participation of many diverse voices. Bangladesh will continue to shine brighter in its remarkable development journey. I thank you.
Thank you, Her Excellency, for your deliberation. Dear media colleagues, now we have question-answer session. I'd like to mention here that first you give your self-introduction and your house. You need to be very clear-cut questions. We have only altogether 45 minutes of this session. So at a time we'll be taking 3 questions, then we'll go for next session. Perhaps before here.
Thank you very much. My name is Masood Kuli. I work for Daily Jugant newspaper as chief reporter.
বাংলাদেশ সফর নিয়ে ব্রিফ করছিলেন সাংবাদিকদের মিশেল ব্যাশেলে। আমরা এতক্ষণ ছিলাম সেখানে রাজধানীর একটি হোটেলে, যেটি অনুষ্ঠিত হচ্ছে
The government to try to increase the development of the host communities, so the host communities feel that, of course, this is not a burden for them. And in the case of climate change, well, we have been working strongly as UN, calling the international community to ensure that they walk the talk on the Paris Agreement, that the funds that were promised to help developing countries to be able to have the adequate response to climate change will happen. And the other thing is political, to convince the political leaders of the world that they need to take the decisions, so those countries who were the ones who emitted the most are the most responsible of climate change, because they started developing before, that they can sort of compensate in some way, so the countries who are in the developing process can continue have economic stability, but do it in a way that is more friendly to the climate situation. On the issue of more space to civil society, etc., yes, we spoke with everyone about this and the importance that when you want to be graduated from as a least developed country, this is not only about GDP. It's also about the capacity of the institutions to respond. I mean, it's a long list of different situations. So we mentioned that it's really important to ensure that all of these things are happening. And that's so I raised it. I had it was heard and it was said that yes, understood that this is a very important issue. And on the last thing, who was more convincing? The truth is that I hear everybody. But what we do always is when we receive allegations as human rights, what we say is, look, we have received allegations, any allegations. The most healthy situation for any government anywhere in the world is to look into those allegations, is to see if they're true or not, is to respond to the families who can be grieving. So independently, it's not, I mean, my message is not a message, you are right, you're not right. My message is to say, independently of what happened and the circumstances and what are the kind of reasons that things happened, if they were real or not, people there, their families suffering, people need to know the truth. If there was issues that were, if there were violations of human rights, they need to be take responsibility and accountability, and people need justice as well. But mainly they need truth, and that's my message. And that's my message if I go to my country, if I go to any country. You know, it's not that someone convinced me. I said, in any case, I'm a medical doctor. I'm always saying, you know, when there are wounds in a society, you need to acknowledge the problem, because the only way a wound will really heal if it's clean. Clean is a symbolic way of saying if there's truth, if people know the whereabouts, etc. So that's my message everywhere I go. I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina, we discussed the same thing, to Peru, that was my last visit. Everywhere we said, if there are wounds, if there are things that are still there producing pain, everyone has to deal with it and have to find the way to deal with it, you know? And that is listening to everyone and trying to find mechanisms and ways to deal with it, to address it, if I may say.
Thank you, Excellency. Let us move to the next round. 3 questions.
Excellency, it is Shahidul Islam Chaudhary. I am from Ajmer, Kolkata, just in front of you.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
You have mentioned the importance of constituting independent investigation commission on allegations of torture, extrajudicial killing, and forced disappearance. Will you propose any mechanism for constituting the commission? Who should lead for holding credible investigations? This is the first question. Second question is, will there be any mechanism from your office to look after the progress on the request you have made here?
Thank you, Dear High Commissioner. I'm Ridwan from The Guardian here. So I probably can take you back to one of your previous trips. There's a lot of interest around the Xinjiang report that your office has prepared. And probably because we're not running the second term in the office, we're at the very last stretch of you in the office. So would you publish the report before you leave the office? And if you could share us what are your findings were? And my second question is also about that. After your trip to China, you promised to follow up on the issues highlighted by the human rights activists over there. And what are we on that end? And what have you done to follow up that you promised that you have proposed the issues highlighted by the human rights activists? And my last question is.
It was supposed to be one. Okay, I'll accept it anyway.
I'm really sorry. My last question
I thought it would be about your country, but anyway.
Yeah, my last question is, there was a lot of reports about that China is trying to bury the Xinjiang report actively. Can you confirm that? Have you seen or have you felt something from the other nations that they're trying to bury the report?
Trying to what, sorry?
To bury the report, right? Trying to kill the report.
My name is Nurul Islam Hasib. I work with Bangladesh Post newspaper. So you just said that you raised the alarm and you raised the voices, and also on Rohingya issue, you raised alarm, you raised voices, and you also asked for the justice. But nothing could stop Myanmar from committing this crime against crimes against the Rohingya community in Rakhine. So where's the problem? What do you think? Does it indicate the failure of the UN system, or does it indicate that the UN system needs to be overhauled?
We have proposed to the government that they could that there's a need to, as I said just before, you asked for people to heal those wounds, and that in many countries, even in the neighborhood, there has been mechanism that different kinds of mechanisms. Some that make a thorough investigation. I don't have the model in my head right now because, of course, we need to. It depends on every country. It's different from one country to another. I would say usually what we recommend for any mechanism to be credible, that an independent person can lead something like that. But of course, I don't have a special recipe because I don't think there can be a one-size-fits-all on this. There are different forms that have been taken in different countries. Sometimes this kind of mechanisms are judicial. Sometimes independent, as I said before, bodies. But the important thing, more than who leads it individually, and of course it wouldn't be serious from my part to propose a name or something like that, is that they have clear mandate, they have resources, they have independence, and that they have power. So they can do the job, and finally that they're victim-centered. That is, I would say, those are the main requirements that I think are essential. We have here the Office of the Resident Coordinator has a human rights advisor and another staff, a couple of staff. We are looking forward to strengthening that group so we can deal better with all the different circumstances, including the refugee situation. And they will make the follow-up of the conclusions of what we have discussed with the government and that we have agreed with the government in many areas. So, and of course, as well, as you remember, we said that Bangladesh will have to present its fourth UPR in next year. So that's the follow-up usually done by member states, and my office always does the follow-up as at any issue. On the failure of the UN system, well, I would say, when I said we, it's not me myself who were the ones who voiced, because I was not High Commissioner at that time. What I went to say started very soon, very early with the with special rapporteurs. I think there has been a discussion if the UN acted as its